guys. So a woman has come forward and she claims that she befriended Candace Hera, aka Grandus, online, and that during the course of this friendship, Grandma Hera would confide in her that she was feeling guilty about not being truthful with authorities on the day that little Summer allegedly was abducted. In fact, she would go on to give her the real version of what happened. Now, of course, everything that I'm saying is allegedly. This information has come from a woman who claims that she did have this conversation with Grandma Hera, and there are text messages that will back up some of her information. She has gone to authorities with this information and gone public. Now, recently, we all know that Grandma Hera has gone and done an interview with the news. And in that interview, she pretty much sticks to the narrative that we've been given all along, except she includes the nap. The nap that a lot of people are talking about and picking apart because it was never included in any previous descriptions of that day. But this woman says that nap was always in the version that Grandma Hera gave her. And so you wonder, well, why would it suddenly be included in, the more public narrative? Is it because all this information is coming to light? And so maybe Grandma Hera realizes that, maybe I better slip some of this information in and make it fit, because if it's all going to come out anyway, it's better that people hear it from her. Only she has more control over how it's presented. That's one way, to consider why this information is now coming out. This woman says that she never was Candace's friend, but that she befriended her as a ruse to get information about Summer. It's almost irrelevant whether or not they really were friends, but, they might have been. They had a lot in common. They're both older women. This woman had previously lost a granddaughter. Candace Hera was dealing with the loss of a granddaughter at this time and has also lost a daughter. So possibly they really were talking as two women who, had a lot in common, and that when this information came out, maybe the woman just thought, whoa, this is not okay. I don't want to be the one holding this information, so I'm going to go ahead and pass it on. Now, at the time that this conversation was taking place, it was taking place over video, so I believe that to be Facebook Messenger. And allegedly, Grandma Hera saw the woman start taking notes, writing down the information that she was giving her, and then she blocked her, and they've had no conversation since. So let's look at what this woman says were the events of the day Summer went missing, according to Grandma Hera. She says that Grandma Hera did go to the emergency room that morning because her knee was bothering her. And I always wondered if it was a doctor's office, an urgent care, or a true emergency room, an ER, because it seemed like she wasn't there very long. And if you go to an actual ER, you're typically there for a really long time. So she says that Grandma Hera said she did go to the ER and she was there for a very long time. And that during the time that she was dropped off and left at the ER, that Candace Bly Wells, Hunter, and Summer went swimming. And Grandma Hera says she never went to the swimming hole with them. So if that bit of information is true, that would be huge, because that has always been a big part of the story, that Grandma was with them at the swimming hole. If that turns out to be a lie, it's going to be crucial, because why would somebody lie about that? There are multiple reasons. Maybe Candace Wells wanted to have another adult witness, present that could solidify her version of events at the swimming hole. Maybe because whether or not anything happened to Summer at the swimming hole, we certainly speculate that a lot of other inappropriate things may have been going on. And so by putting Candace there, by putting Grandma there, it's less likely to believe that there may have been drug or alcohol use with a minor or even some hanky-panky. So there are multiple reasons why she may have wanted to place Grandma at the swimming hole. So this friend, for lack of a better word, says that when Summer and Hunter and Candace picked her up from the ER, everybody was fine. She goes on to tell this kind of strange or pointless little story about that orange soda bottle that we've seen in the car, how it had been sitting there and Summer picked it up and she either did or attempted to drink from it, and that Grandma yelled at her to put it down because it was old, and she instead gave her a bottle of water. So that's all that was really said about that. And I'm sitting here thinking, okay, what is the point of that? Was it just minute details of the day? Or is she, kind of giving a little bit of information, a little bit of bait? Is there something she either wants us to believe about that soda bottle or something that she knows about the soda bottle? Is it just a distraction for us? Like she wants us to pick up on that and to make assumptions that there was something in the bottle and that might have been something that hurt Summer? Or did whatever was in the bottle actually hurt Summer and she didn't want to actually say it, so she just kind of put the information out there and hoped, this woman would grab it and understand it. So with that said, the story goes on. They drop Hunter off. And this woman says that Grandma Hera is adamant. Allie never got off that porch. Allie never came to the car. Now, we know early on, Allie was talking to Chris from the interview room. And she made a point of saying repeatedly that she went to the car, she saw Summer with her own eyes. So later, it kind of came out that Allie was changing that version to neighbors or friends or people close to her and saying that she felt guilty, that she didn't go off the porch, that she didn't go to the car, and that she didn't see Summer that day. Now, when Candace Hera is telling this story to this friend, she interestingly says that the reason that she's telling her this is because she has nobody to talk to and she's feeling guilty. She's feeling guilty that she wasn't truthful with the police and the authorities on the day that Summer disappeared, and that, she's kind of unburdening herself, if you will. Isn't it fascinating that we have both of these women, we have Grandma and we have Allie, using the words feeling guilty? It's almost like people gave their stories and now the time is going by and they've had to sit with the knowledge that they either have or that they suspect, or their lies or their omissions. They are now starting to feel guilty, that they are burdened with this, conscience that is wanting to tell the truth. So according to this woman, they drop off Hunter. It's, nothing interesting happens there. Allie doesn't come and talk to them, and, they just drop Hunter off, and that's that. She goes on to say that Summer starts to say she doesn't feel well and that she's cold. Well, there was 2 gallons of cold milk sitting in the back seat. But she says that, Summer says that she's cold and she's not feeling well. So, according to this woman, Grandma Hera tells her that Candace reaches out to Don because she wants his opinion on whether or not she should take Summer to the hospital because she's not feeling well and she's maybe not acting 100% right. The woman says that Grandma Hera, so Candace Hera, tells her that the reason that Candace didn't just, make that decision and go off to the doctors herself with her daughter is because it is the norm within that household or within that relationship or within that family that everything has to be passed by Dawn for approval. So she reaches out to him and she says, should I take her to the doctors? And when they're at home, she goes a step further and says that when these groceries are taken in the house, the baby never gets out of the car. She stays in the car. And the reason is because after the groceries are dispersed and brought in the house, she leaves with Summer to go meet up with Dawn. Okay, where I'm assuming, and this is my assumption, he's going to assess the situation and decide if Summer should go to the doctors. That seems like a lot to take your kid to the doctors. I don't know about you, but for me, my husband would, unless it was an actual emergency and I'm calling from the hospital, he wouldn't be leaving work to come and, assess my children. I would take them to the doctors if they needed to go. I might call them and say, hey, we're headed to the doctors. One of the kids doesn't seem right or they feel sick. And if it was a true emergency, he might meet us at the doctors. But that's not the way it allegedly goes down. She goes and meets with Dawn so that he can decide if this warrants a hospital visit. Now, Candace Hera says that from that point, they drive away, she goes in the house, and she takes a nap. There's the nap. There are no cactuses in this story. There are no, planting flowers. There is no Summer's in the house. The boys say she's downstairs and she's playing. There's none of that. There's none of that in this story. And, I don't know if the story is true, and I don't know about those text messages and what parts are corroborated, but this is the story that this woman gives. She then says, at some point, Candace returns without Summer and says that Dawn took Summer to the hospital. Some more time goes by, and all of a sudden, Grandma Hera is made aware, or I don't know if she fell back to sleep and she's woke up again, but at some point, she becomes aware that there is a 911 call, that Summer's missing, that all of this. Now, she says, the woman says, that Grandma Candace never tells her if there was conversations between the two Candaces. Well, wait a minute, what do you mean missing? You just said she was at the doctor's with her father. She says none of that information was given to her, but remember, the conversation was cut off when Grandma Hera noticed that this woman was taking notes. So one wonders what other information she may have gotten if that didn't happen and she had continued to talk, because that's a lot, right? Because you were wondering, okay, well, if I see my daughter drive away with my granddaughter and come back without her and say that the dad took her to the hospital, okay, but how did we jump from that to the kid is missing and we're making 911 calls? There had to be a conversation between mother and daughter, of maybe not between Candace Hera and Donnie, because Candace Hera seems to really not only not like Dawn, but I think that there's a little bit of fear there. And actually, there was some text messages this woman produced where Grandma Hera says that she doesn't like to this phrase is mine, but she doesn't like to poke the bear. She doesn't like to get into it with Dawn because she's always afraid that Dawn will throw her off the property. And then she kind of won't be there with her daughter and her grandchildren. She's there half the year. But also, apparently she says she is afraid that Dawn will throw Candace under the bus. Even though in her story, she kind of puts it all on Dawn and kind of leaves Candace as very innocent in the situation. I think that we can deduct from all of this that there has to be a little bit more to it. Candace either this really happened and Dawn drove away with your daughter and said, okay, I'm taking her to the hospital. And then all of a sudden, he comes back without her, or tells you, You call 911, she's missing. Like, there's so many questions from that point, from the point where she drives away with Summer and returns without Summer. We don't have that information because the conversations were cut off from that point on. Now, Grandma Hera, who is now also giving news interviews, it's now that Dawn's in jail, everybody's talking, she does include this nap, but she doesn't include anything else from this story. She sticks completely to the narrative other than the nap. So we still have the cactuses, we still have the Summer in the house playing and going downstairs and then missing. So I don't know what your thoughts on all of this is, but here's what I'm thinking. And I've always said, I think it's an accident, and I think that Candace lied, and this lie has really taken on a life of its own, and she doesn't know how to backtrack it now. When I think about Grandma in this situation, it's easy to say she should throw Candace under the bus because even though that's your daughter, there's a 5-year-old child missing, which is your granddaughter. And that's easy to say. But let's look at Grandma Hera. Don't think that she's had the easiest life herself. She's already lost one daughter. And even if she knows or suspects anything with Summer, if she knows that Summer's not coming back, she may just so desperately be afraid of losing Candace, which would now be her third loss, that she may be protecting her. She may be in mama bear mode. Like, my daughter is not going to leave me. Like, she's not going down for this. If there was an accident, I truly believe at this point, because I've always wondered about what Dawn did or didn't know. And now kind of hearing this, and I don't know how much truth is in it, but it's got me thinking. I've always said that I think that Candace relies on Dawn a lot emotionally to make decisions, now whether or not that's because he's very controlling or that's just her nature to kind of need somebody to be the leader. Either way, I think that she definitely, confides in him, hands over the tough stuff to him, in other words. So if there was an accident and she immediately reached out to Dawn and he was going to fix it, and that could be two things. Either A, he's going to fix it for Candace, because again, maybe he figures like the kid is gone anyway, but let's not lose everything, the boys, you, whatever. Because a lot of people may not realize that you're not really going to go to jail for an accident. Now, if it was negligence, that might be a little bit of gray area. Either way, she could have been very scared. So Dawn could just be, riding in as Candace's knight in shining armor, and he's going to fix it. He's going to conceal it. He's going to do whatever it takes to keep Candace out of trouble and keep the remaining portion of the family intact. Or she could have been very ill, but maybe even more ill than Candace realized. She may have been close to death, either on the way to Dawn, or she could have already been deceased when they got to Dawn, or she could have handed her off very close to deceased. We don't know. We don't even know if this happened, but you get me. So at that point, what is Dawn's role in all of this? Does he take the child away and, fill Candace in on what's happening? Or does he think best to handle it and he doesn't tell Candace the truth? She knows at least the baseline of the story, but she doesn't know exactly what happens from that point on. And maybe he never tells her, either because he's afraid that, she will end up opening her mouth and they're all going to go down, or because he thinks she can't handle it emotionally. I don't know. But it is possible that Dawn takes this child, now whether or not deceased or very close to it, and the child then becomes deceased, and Candace is sent home, which fits into this woman's story. She leaves the baby. She comes back without the baby. Dawn has the baby. And maybe she doesn't actually know what happened from that point on. And so she is telling portions of the truth. That is possible. She's telling portions of the truth. She doesn't know where Summer is. And that could be why some of the body language experts have said She has guilty knowledge. She's not necessarily lying, but she has guilty knowledge. So tell me what you think. I will tell you that I reached out to both Grandma Hare and to Candace Wells, and I've presented to both of them what I feel about this situation. I don't know if they will respond, but exactly what I've told you is basically what I told them that I believe happened. Now, I also implored that if there is any information, now would be the time to tell. With the West boys and the arrest that's happened out in California, this kind of reminds us that even if a year goes by, and what are we, 9 months from Summer Wells' story? Even if a year goes by, there's going to ultimately, most likely, be an arrest. Very rarely is there not in a situation like this, even if a long time goes by. And so if there was an accident, Candace needs to tell it, because Don is in jail now, and I can only assume that people will be talking to him, and he's going to be in a different state of mind now. He's away from Candace. Candace is kind of doing her own thing. There's been some rift between them. He may be sober at this point. Who knows? Who knows? I mean, he's in jail. That doesn't necessarily mean that, he's not having access to anything that he shouldn't, but he may be sober. And he also may just have a whole lot of alone time to reflect and think. And if he starts to talk, will he tell it in a way that, Candace is going to be off the hook, or is he going to save himself? We've heard him say before, I have 7 alibis, you have none. Is he going to throw her under the bus? It remains to be seen, but something is going to end up happening. Somebody is going to talk, because we're starting to see it. People are using words now like, I'm feeling guilty. I'm feeling guilty that I didn't go see Summer in the car. I'm feeling guilty that I didn't tell the authorities the truth. Somebody is going to put the truth out there. And so if this truth to be told, then Candace needs to do that now. She's not going to go to prison for murder if it was an accident. She is going to face charges, I would assume, because, she did lie, and they've used all these resources, and, and there may even, because we don't know if she was with John when this cover-up happened, or if she passed off the baby and she left and she wasn't part of the cover-up. But there could be abuse of a corpse because, somebody definitely, more than likely, did something with Summer after she was deceased. So tell me what you're thinking. Tell me what your thoughts are on this friend who has thrown Grandma Hare under the bus. Tell me what you think about Grandma Hare. Can you at least empathize with her a little bit, as a mother, if she's covering for Candace, that even though this is her granddaughter, she has lost a daughter, now she's lost a granddaughter, and that maybe she just can't bear to lose her daughter too? Tell me what you're thinking about all of it, and I will see you soon. Bye.